Hello everybody and welcome back to Neptune's Rings. We're here again at Kerbal Space Program where we're going to finish our mission from last time. We're going to do our rendezvous and then docking of our little spacecraft, and hopefully the goal is to retrieve all this science stored upon our big ship and bring it back home to Kerbin. So here we are in our probe, which actually we did a fairly good job last time of getting to a relatively similar orbit as our mothership. So we're going to set that as our target, and luckily it looks like we're actually approaching our ascending node where we're actually very far off alignment. So first things first in rendezvousing is we want to try to match our inclinations. Well, first things first would be getting into orbit and getting into a similar orbit, but since we already have that going for us, we're going to skip to the next step, which is going to be come on, there, okay, that's what we want. It's going to be trying to match the inclination. Oops. Well, that oops was a good oops, apparently. We matched our inclination just about perfectly. Well, as perfectly as it'll let us match it. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and align ourselves with that maneuver. And we'll go ahead and warp to it. Oh, ooh, it'll be a 0.8 second burn. Ooh. Let's go ahead and limit that to 10. Yep, 7 seconds sounds good to me. There we go, warp into it. Ah, wait. Panicked a little bit. See where they land us. That works. Just about perfect. Okay. And with that part of the maneuver done, the next step is to, if I can, this is difficult sometimes. Next step would be to try and get our orbit as close as possible to the other ship's orbit. The ship we want to maneuver with, and we are pretty close. So we're going to go ahead and actually, I wonder if we put a maneuver here, if we can get ourselves to match the orbit. No, I don't think, not without. Maybe actually. I'm going to try to get our orbits as similar as possible. We're actually going to do this. Get our orbits, our apoapsis at the same point relatively. Or relatively similar points. And just gonna have a little bit of retrograde burn. That's fine though. So we're gonna burn. We're gonna get our orbits relatively similar, and that way we'll be in a similar spot. And what's gonna happen is it's behind in its orbit, so it needs to catch up to us, or we need to catch up to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put ourselves in a similar orbit, so that way we have a common reference point for it to catch up to. And then we're going to adjust our other side of our orbit over here so that we're either going slower or faster than it, so that it'll either catch up to it, or it will either catch up to us, or we will catch up to it. And then from there we'll just get our closest encounter, which is represented by these two markers, as close as possible. And then from there we can just use nav ball. Wow, I almost missed the burn. Nav ball nav ball maneuvers to match our orbits and perform the rendezvous. There we go. That's pretty spot on, if I do say so myself. I can't really tell. Oh, I guess I could tell here. So your apoapsis is 45, 85. Okay, so we're in a slightly higher orbit, but that's fine. So now we're going to come over here and see this is our position at second intersect, and this is at first intersect. So this is where the target's going to be, and this is where we will be. So you can see the target will be way ahead of us. So to adjust for that, we can lower our orbit, which will put us farther. It'll mean we will be going faster. Or we could raise our orbit. Where is our second approach? Just need a little bit too fast. We're going to go over here and we're going to do a little bit finer of control. Also may need to just wait a few orbits as well, which is what I think we're going to do. Just going to let time pass a little bit, and you'll see once we pass these markers, they'll start switching around. And they move. You can see we're not quite catching up at a reasonable rate, so what we're going to do is we're just going to lower our apoapsis a fair little bit. That way we'll be catching up more and more with each orbit. And once we start getting close, we can start fiddling around with the maneuvers to get it even closer. But we want to try to conserve as much fuel as possible. Like we could burn from here actually and fiddle around and make a maneuver that will allow us to rendezvous, but that will take a lot of fuel. So if you want to be fuel efficient, you just wait a few orbits, you lower your apoapsis or raise it, wait a few orbits, and you'll eventually come around to a reasonable encounter. But if fuel is not a problem in your mission, then you can just do a pretty strong burn straight for the target, and you'll get close, and it'll work that way. It'll just burn a lot of fuel. Way more fuel than I'm really willing to burn right now, even though we have a fair bit of it. But I plan on using that fuel to transfer to our main craft to give us a little bit more margin for re-entering the atmosphere, just to make sure we re-enter well. I'm going to burn at 5 seconds. And this burn doesn't really matter where we end up because it's a complete arbitrary burn. There we go. We're going to leave it there and we'll do some time warping and see where we end up. You can see the second encounter moved much closer, so it's 44,000 kilometers now. Our first separation is 41. Oh, that's a good one. That one's pretty good too. 2,000 kilometer separation. So what we're going to do now is at our apoapsis, we're going to start fiddling with this. Actually 94 kilometers. We're going to fiddle and try to get this one to intersect. I'm just going to try to align this so I can see all the numbers. Something like that. Just want to see the numbers, thank you. Oh, nope. Burning that way doesn't help. And like I said, at this point, it's just a bunch of fiddling around. Come on. What's often helpful is to go into this view and adjust from here, because you can tell it how much delta V you want it to go with every click, and you can actually click to get super specific. 37, 30, 80. Let's see if we can lower this a little bit more and get that closer. Ooh, 18. Okay, and our, see what happens if we, nope. Let me burn radial in, bring it, nope, doesn't help any. Yeah, that seems to be as close as they want to get in this orientation. Okay, adjusting our inclination helps a little bit, so we'll just fiddle with that a little bit. And ideally you want to get within, like in a perfect world, within a kilometer. That would be the minimum distance that you really want to be to perform all this, but I mean, anywhere between like 10 kilometers and a kilometer is, you'll be able to rendezvous still. Once again, it's just a matter of fuel and patience. But we can reach 1.7, so we're gonna go ahead and go with that one. I need to be much more careful about time warping while I'm doing that. Sorry, I lost the words for that. You can see it's 0.5 seconds at 10% thrust limiting, which is insane. I got a half of 1% thrust. There we go. That's a good way to put it. There we go. That's 4 seconds still. Insane. And we'll go ahead and warp to that maneuver. Oh, we're so far from it. 10 days. This is a really, really high orbit. And here we go. Well, sometimes I wish you would drop us a little bit closer to the maneuver than a full minute. Like sometimes it's nice so you can do a preparation, but sometimes you just want to get to the maneuver. 2 seconds burn. Burn, please. Oh. Well, dang it! I wasn't aligned with the node. That would be the issue. Burn. There we go. Always make sure you're properly aligned. That should be pretty obvious to anyone but me, apparently. You can see, because we didn't do that properly, we are not even close to where we need to be. Let's see if we burn, will we still bring it down? Oh yeah, we're still bringing it down. Very slowly. Oh, it looks like we'll actually be even close. Well, we would have been closer if I hadn't gotten greedy with that. Let's see if we put this about here. Okay, 1.5. I am happy with that. I'm not going to mess with it. And we're going to go ahead and warp to the first encounter, so we can go ahead and start watching for the ship in the actual, not map mode. I don't know what this map mode's called. But as you'll see, we'll be able to start actually finding the marker on the map for it. It will be close enough. And of course, the bigger your the ship or station or whatever you're rendezvousing is, the easier it'll be to find on this mode. As you can imagine, it'll be probably pretty little difficult to do now, but we'll make it work. Okay, it's going to be behind us and slightly above and that way. So actually it's gonna be kind of in front of us, which we're probably still far out enough that we won't be able to see it, which is fine. Just wanted to show you kind of this is the distance that will be. Oh yeah, we're still like 2,000 kilometers out. That looked a lot closer. Once we get over here though, we'll start seeing it. And you can see it's catching up. Okay, well if that wasn't in the way, you would see it's catching up, and at this point it's just about on top of us unless you scroll way in. And we actually have communications with it, we're so close. Which was the point of putting the relay on it in the first place. And there it is. 36 kilometers away. So at this point it's a bunch of patience. We're going to wait for it to get a little bit closer, and then we're going to burn anti-target, or yeah, anti-target to try to kill off all of our relative speed between us and the target. Oh, it won't lock on. Oh well. So just going to let that approach us. Right now, this means we're moving towards the target at 32 meters per second. Getting closer. Once it gets to about 2, I'll stop it there actually, because I get nervous. So you can see you can start doing this at like all the way out at 30 kilometers a second. Once again, it's just a matter of how much fuel you want to burn and how much patience you have. The closer you are, the easier it is and the better your maneuver will be. So we're going to try to get it about there, but we don't want it to start moving away from us, because then we're losing our efficiency a little bit. Okay, and we're going to burn to... We're going to adjust our limiter. Where is it? There it is. We'll leave it at about 50 actually. I don't want to overdo it. And we'll go ahead and burn towards it. The ultimate goal is we want to get our prograde and retrograde markers to end up on these other markers here, which will mean that we are heading directly towards away from it. So now we're heading towards it about 6.6 meters per second. There we go. Now we're heading directly at it at 26 meters per second, because I have, well, just about directly, because I have it just about lined up perfectly. Which, just because orbits are circular, obviously, we're going to drift from that slightly as we get closer. As it moves in its circle and we're moving in a straight line towards it, we're not going to be shooting straight at it, which is why you can't just burn towards your target and get there. Only when you're in relatively close proximity, which in real life is generally started about 1 kilometer distance. You can see we're within 1 kilometer and we're starting to move towards it pretty fast, so we're going to just kind of make sure we kill off our speed. Oops, I think we're moving away from it now. Yep. Burned a little bit too hard. That's fine. I'm going to burn towards it. And once you get, the closer you are, the slower you want your approach to be, which is where the patience comes in, of course, because you don't want to accidentally end up in a position where you're coming up on your target too fast and you can't stop. That is the worst thing to happen, and then you collide and explode, and while explosions are fun, it's not what you want to happen if you've just been on about a year-long journey, or if you have a very large station that you're trying to create, or something you spent a lot of time on. You want to be careful not to accidentally blow that up. Maybe you have a quick save though, and you just want to blow it up for the fun of it. That's different. Okay, and occasionally you just want to go through and kill off your relative speed and then apply more relative speed towards it just to make sure that your alignment is correct. We're going to work at about 5 meters per second towards it. As you can see, I'm not quite getting the marker on the mark, which means I'm not quite moving directly towards it, which is not a bad thing actually. As long as you end up close to it, if your marks are slightly off, that's a good way to make sure you don't accidentally collide with it if you're moving towards it too fast. Okay. Once we get to about 350, we'll do another burn. As you can see, we're off our alignment here, so we're going to need to do a correction burn to get back on alignment, because this is when things are going to start getting even slower since we're even closer. Oops. Oh. Okay, there we go. And you see I burned a little bit more than necessary because I wanted to get the alignment just right on it. That way now I can burn here and kill our relative speed towards the target. That way we have a nice fresh start to get a good alignment for our final approach towards the target. Oops. Oh, that works. And of course, the more precise you are for this, the better. It'll get you closer, it'll make it the docking maneuver even easier and whatnot. But for this purposes, we're not being super exact. We're in this mission, while it's important, I don't foresee us accidentally blowing up or anything, so we're just going to take our time with this. So we approach the station. Oh, I can't highlight. That would have been fun. Coming in on it. And like I said, in real life, these maneuvers are so slow. Like, we would be stressing NASA out right now approaching the space station at 5 meters per second. They do these maneuvers at centimeters per second or slower. The level of precision that they put into these maneuvers. There it is. You're starting to see the mothership better. Getting nice and close. And once we get within about, I'm gonna say here, we're gonna start killing our speed, and we're gonna switch to just using our RCS thrusters, or our reaction control system thrusters, which are a series of generally cold gas thrusters. Oops. Dang it. Moving away. They're a series of cold gas thrusters that, well, they just shoot out a cold gas, and they're just used for orbital, not orbital corrections, but attitude adjustments. Make sure you're pointed in a similar way, or very small fine maneuvering. They're generally not nearly powerful enough to actually be used for a propulsive system. Okay. Alright, moving towards it. And with these, you don't actually have to go through and flip your craft around all the time, because these thrusters are generally aligned in every direction. So I have a forward thruster and I have a reverse thruster like that, so I can just stop us just like that. You can see it's these little guys here on the ship. Forward, backward, side, side. And you want to get these all kind of in a orientation where they balance out well, and you don't want to use those to rotate. They balance out well and make sure that they are near your center of gravity, so that they're not creating rotation when you're just trying to move in a translational movement. Okay. And we're going to burn up so we can get to the top. I'm going to set that as our target. And as you see, very fine controls here. And we're going to point ourselves south. And if you remember, when we parked the mothership, we put in a specific orientation facing normal or along the normal anti-normal axis, and this is the exact reason why, so that we could make sure to align ourselves properly. And you see I didn't do a very good job. Ooh, wow, I'm a lot closer than I was expecting. I didn't do a very good job at making sure that my RCS thrusters were aligned in a direction that would make sure that they didn't produce a roll in my craft. But that is okay. It doesn't seem to be affecting us too much. And like I said, patience will pay off in dividends here. You want to get your target node about lined up with your oh, there we go. And once you get close enough, the magnetic lock system will take over and kind of pull you in, at which point it's best to turn off your RCS and your stability control, because those will oftentimes fight against it. Our craft was small enough that the stability control didn't make a difference in this case, but the RCS was fighting against it, as you could see. And we've successfully docked. That's as easy as rendezvous and docking is. Of course, every situation is going to be different. As long as you're patient with it and take your time, it's not that big of an issue, and you will be able to make these wonderfully docked craft like this. And of course, this probe was really small, so it was really easy to maneuver, and it didn't take a lot of monopropellant, which is your RCS fuel, to complete. And the bigger the craft, a little bit more delicate they'll be to maneuver, and you're gonna have to take a little bit more time and be a little bit more careful about where you put your thrusters. But for us, this worked. Now we're gonna go ahead and grab Jebediah, and we're going to grab these science. We're gonna try to grab these science. Take data. Okay, looks like we're not gonna be able to do it without letting go. Which is unfortunate, because after events in previous episodes, I'm very, very cautious about my Kerbals. But it's just a quick flight around. Alright, oops, where am I going? Would like you to spin. There we go. I remember the right buttons for this. Okay, collect data. Yeah, I don't care about that. And I think that was all the science that we had on this. We just had the thermometer, the pressure, and the science goo. So, and grab and board. So we're actually supposed to put the science in here. Collect all. Oh, I wonder if I could have just done that and had it collect all the science from the ship. Transfer data to here. Interesting. Well, that's that. So now what I want to do is grab this guy here. And if you push Alt and then right click, wait, there you go. Alt and then Alt and right click on the fuel tank, and Alt and right click on the tank you want. You can transfer the fuel just like that, and now all the fuel from here is now in my tanks, which didn't really help a lot because obviously these tanks are a lot bigger than that tank was, but gives us a little bit more fuel to play around with. And we will begin our maneuvers to go back home. It takes quite a bit because we're very, very far up here, which is why I wanted to go and grab that fuel. But as you can see, we'll be fine. We'll make it back into the atmosphere, pretty deep in, so we do efficient gravity braking. And we will return. We just have to warp to this maneuver. And then align ourselves retrograde, which is where our maneuver will be. And this is going to be odd for a change. Our burn is going to be super short because it's a much more powerful engine. And we just burn. We don't really need this maneuver because we have our orbital elements right here. Those encounters with the Mun are throwing me off. They're affecting the maneuvers and whatnot. Or they look like they are, but they're really not. And right, okay, that was a little bit farther than I wanted to go, which isn't bad, but I don't want to re-enter the atmosphere that steeply. If you enter too steeply, then you'll be coming in too fast and you won't be able to brake in time. So I just want to make sure we can stop, which is the most important part about re-entries. Okay. Make sure we have our heat shield and everything. What engine is this? Oh, it's that. Okay, and once we get back closer to Kerbin, we'll go ahead and inject that probe so it'll burn up in the atmosphere. We have a bunch of parachutes to stop us, just making sure everything is properly done so that we don't mess up anywhere. That'd be a shame. That's a stack separator. Okay, perfect. We're gonna go ahead and warp way over here. As you can see in our orbit, we're going super slow because we're at the edges of the Kerbin sphere of influence. Much more, and we would have been on an escape trajectory. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and point in a direction. Oh, we are out of electric charge. Does this engine generate electric charge? I think it should. I'm just gonna thrust limit it and hopefully turn it on. Get us a little bit extra charge. Cannot see the craft. We're going to retract that antenna, which will reduce our energy consumption. Looks like we're having trouble with this. Go ahead and inject that. Decouple. There you go. Get rid of that. It's slightly concerning. get rid of that guy. And he'll drift away, and we will hopefully come into the atmosphere at a good angle. There's not much we can do otherwise. So you should always keep a close eye on your electric charge. I forgot I didn't pack a ton of batteries, and our solar panels are rather small, as well as lots of time warping, time out of the sun, in the shadow here. Yeah, that was a lot of my fault there. But it looks like our craft is pretty aerodynamically stable enough to align itself to the retrograde marker. Hopefully sooner rather than later, because we're coming into some thick, soupy atmosphere now. I don't really want to burn up. Oop, something blew up. Stuff's heating up. Don't heat up. That's what the heat shield's for. See, that's why it's pretty important to make sure you come in with some electric charge to align yourself manually. But it looks like we're gonna be fine. We're slowing down. We're almost out of the thick of it. I don't know if we actually lost anything, or if that was just stuff getting warm, or the other parts maybe even blowing up. Okay, super excited to see all the science. Only 320? I mean, we didn't grab a bunch of science from the sun. All of that actually came from our MUN station that we accidentally set up. But this will get us a good way towards our goal of the Communitron, which I thought we needed to get our science back, but apparently we don't. Just strange to me. But it's also going to be good because we'll get more science from it. Like we'll get the weather analyzer, which we can't really put on the MUN because there's no atmosphere. That's fine. We'll get more antennae, as well as, oh, that's the one we want. We can get these guys. I want to get these solar arrays so bad. I love the way these look. But this will be good because we'll get the seismic accelerometer, the Grand Slam seismic seismometer. Wow, words, and more relay antennae as well. So we're gonna go ahead and get that while we're here, and we'll go ahead and get another one. Probably this one, because these engines will make life much easier. All this would too. This is all good. They're all very good tech nodes to unlock. Ooh, and this would give us a lot of the robotic parts from the Breaking Ground DLC. In one of the upcoming videos, we'll start doing some aerodynamic stuff. We're just going to need a little bit more science so we can unlock some of this stuff so we can do more interesting things than just building a simple plane and flying around Kerbin. Which will be new for me because, like I said in an earlier episode, I'm not really one for flying around. I don't usually build very many planes, so that'll be fun to get into. But as for now, this has been Neptune's Ring and Kerbal Space Program. Hope you enjoyed.